why don't you do Melody, and I'll have Lacey go first, and I'll do Lacey's, since we're using Melody's book to as an outline to do Lacey's. Okay, so then who doesn't have an evaluator? Virginia.
I'm doing Virginia.
Oh, you're doing Virginia?
Unless,
that's good.
Unless, yeah.
So does everybody who wants to do an evaluation have one? Okay. Now, one of the things that I noticed in going through some things that President Marble had for us that Donna and I kept copies of, and more importantly, Donna had in her folder last week, is evaluation speeches are 2 to 3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes. So they're kind of a mini speech with a beginning, a middle, and ending. So when you get a chance to do an evaluation, you have a chance to practice for the evaluation contest next spring as well. So they're little mini speeches, just so you have that. So you don't have to rush quite as much as we have been, and you don't have to just kind of read through the list. Well, it is time to start. I'm going to turn control of the meeting right where she sits, but she may stand to President Donna to go ahead and get us started with whatever she's got for us.
Right, sounds good. Well, let's start. We'll rise and do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank
You
you.
can be seated. The club mission isn't out, but that's okay. I taped a copy to my folder. So I will read this because I think the club mission is very important and is what we strive for. Club mission. The mission of a Toastmasters club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every individual member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. Thank you. I like that one.
Thank you very much.
Jim, Area Governor, do you have anything you need to share with us?
I just would point out that this is my 4th Toastmasters meeting in 8 days.
Wonderful.
I was in Miles City Monday night. Of course, we did our meeting at the hospital last Thursday, and then I left at 3:45 yesterday morning for Williston, and I attended their meeting at 6 o'clock our time there. All clubs are alive and well, and I will be completing the evaluations. I just turned over a thing to Pete and sent a copy of those cards that with the summaries of that. Someone put they were going to complete a CC, but they didn't put a name on it. So if you have pencil handwriting, no name, but are going to do a CC, let Pete or me know. It would be a great revelation. So that's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Jim, and we're lucky to have you in our club, not only as a member, but area governor, and I'm sure the other clubs enjoy having you there, and I think it does keep them alive and well. And
Thank you.
enjoy.
Some of them think I'm a pain in the neck, but I am offended.
Well, we're lucky. We appreciate you. Pete, VP Education and Postmaster, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you very much. Don, appreciate you and your leadership as you continue to grow by leaps and bounds. So today I get to be 3 people. I get to be VP of Education, and I sent you out a email that we would go ahead and schedule everyone for a speech next week who hasn't spoken today or the previous meeting. So one of the goals I put on my card for Jim was to give everyone an opportunity to speak every month. So that's me for VP of Ed. Now let's think. Me as treasurer, Alan called just when the power went out, it's not his fault, and said, something's come up, I can't make it, and would I collect checks? So if you have a check for Alan, I'm filling in, going to deliver them to him. One other thing before we start our speeches that I'd like to do, Donna and I both have noticed, Jim, how valuable you are. And if I wasn't playing Tire Wars today, in the car that needs to be addressed by the tire change guy, I've got something for a man for all seasons. So I've got a little gift for you in appreciation for your going down and doing all those meetings as area governor next week. So if it's something you already have one of, you can put it in the basket as something for the prize or the gift that you're giving when you get there. So just want to let you know how much we appreciate you and all that you do. Man for All Seasons. It's a multi-purpose utility knife. Even has a pencil sharpener in it, just so you know.
Okay, thank
to
you.
kind of signify that you're our utility player. I guess if it was the World Series, you'd be our MVP. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So, which reminds me, Donna, since you're here, you get to sign this so Jim can vote for us when he gets there. Okay, we've got speeches, and my daughter, knowing that we might need table topics, gave me a fresh set out of her package of table topics, intriguing things. So if we have enough time to do speeches and evaluations and table topics, we'll get a chance to have fun with those as well. So I think we'll start with Lacey, so I can go ahead and do her evaluation. And then, is there someone who would like to be next, or should I just randomly choose? Any way I like? Okay, so we'll see how I'm doing with Melody's manual. If I still needed another minute, then we'll have someone else speak. But Lacey's going to give us something that I'm very interested in. This is her second manual speech on being organized, and what she's going to do is give us a part of a real presentation she gave last night, and it was to Head Start, focusing on Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So Lacey, if you come and give us your presentation, please.
Sorry.
And as I time this, notice I've got something green, something yellow, and something red.
So, when you hear the word October, what comes to mind? Maybe the fact that it's now fall season, it's getting chilly out there, or maybe that it's time to celebrate and honor the victims and survivors of breast cancer, or even that Halloween is right around the corner. It's coming way faster than I thought it would. But did you also know that it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month? Domestic Violence Awareness Month originated from 1981, the Day of Unity, which began in October, and it was developed by the National Coalition Against the Domestic Violence. The original meaning of the Day of Unity was to bring together all advocates all across the nation so that we could fight together to end domestic violence against women and children. Soon after, several activities on the state, local, and national levels were designed for a week of activities rather than just one day. For each program, those were individualistic and creative to every program, but they all had three common themes: to mourn the victims of domestic violence, to celebrate the survivors, and to bring together the individuals working to end domestic violence. From there, in 1987, the first actual Domestic Violence Awareness Month campaign was created. So we came a long way with our nation from 1981 to 1987, from one day to 1 week to 1 month. To help with the task of ending domestic violence, as a culture, as a community, and even as one person, we must understand what domestic violence is. So domestic violence is defined as a pattern of abusive behavior from one partner to gain power and control over another intimate partner. The stigma with domestic violence is usually what we hear in our office, is that if there isn't any physical violence, then it's not an abusive relationship. However, that statement will prove to be false. In the Dawson County Domestic Violence Office, we see several clients that may have economic abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and even verbal abuse, and that can be with or without the accompaniment of physical abuse. As all of us probably know, physical abuse can be defined as, hitting, punching, slapping, biting, kicking, pushing, etc. Whereas verbal abuse, which is name-calling, degrading statements, put-downs, yelling, and even swearing. And then we have the other side, which is emotional abuse, which can be also often known as double standards, making the partner feel as though they're crazy, accusations, or playing mind games. And those are just a few examples. Several indicators of power and control, which we use a power and control wheel in the office, and it's one of our major tools that we use to help victims help clients identify as a victim. A lot of times they come in not knowing all about domestic violence, which we don't expect everyone to understand that. And so I guess I'm just going to go over a few of the indicators of power and control that a lot of people don't think of as. So a big one is intimidation, slamming of the doors, using aggressive body language or gestures, eye contact. That can be a big one. Isolation, which is a pretty big one right now in our community because of the oil boom. And it's not the only form of isolation, but a lot of times we see victims, they come up here with their partners and then they want to leave the abusive situation and they're completely isolated. They have no family, no friends, no support system, and that usually brings them to our program or programs like ours. Then there's minimizing, denying, and blaming the behavior. Making the behavior seem light, saying that, oh, that never happened, you're crazy, that would never happen in our relationship, and even blaming that other person. I hear a lot of clients say, well, if you wouldn't do this, then I wouldn't have had to hit you, I wouldn't have had to yell at you like that. This is your fault. Using the children is a big one. Threatening to take the children away, which is a common thing that we see in our office. Using economic abuse, which maybe you work, but you don't get to ever see your paychecks. You don't have access to checking your savings accounts. And the last one is using coercion or threats. So we have a lethality assessment, and a big one that we check is, do they threaten to harm you, threat to harm themselves, the pets, or the children? Those can all be big indicators of power and control. And domestic violence is usually always a cycle of violence. So it starts at the top with an incident. And let's just take emotional abuse, for example, since we've been talking about that. You've just had an incident, maybe the abuser is telling you how worthless you are, just completely degrading you. That's your top. And then that goes into the reconciliation stage, where maybe the abuser is apologizing. Oh, I'll never do that again. That's not common. It won't happen in another time. I promise, maybe. And then they can either take the I'm sorry route, or it goes into, oh no, that's your fault that happened. I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened. So we see two different stages of the reconciliation form. And then from that, it goes into the calm state, almost like the calm before the storm. The incident's forgotten. Maybe the victim is thinking, oh, he's really staying true on his promise. It's not going to happen anymore. But then that goes into tension building, where small incidents start happening. Nothing big, but just little things that make you think, maybe this isn't, but I'll just sweep it under the rug. And in our office, we see so many times people go around and around and around. And it's statistically proven, just within the past couple of months, the rate's gone up, that it used to be 7 to 9, but now it's 9 to 13 times likely that an abused person will go back to their relationships 9 to 13 times. And so we're trying to get people to veer off of that cycle rather than stay in that circular motion. And for our October Awareness campaign, we have had, and a lot of you probably have seen them, we've had different displays around the community depicting a silhouette of a woman with different thought bubbles. There's 2 large posters at the college and the hospital, and we have flyers all over the gas stations, restaurants, and grocery stores. And they depict often used phrases that a victim will hear in a domestic violence situation. And so if you guys haven't already seen them, please go ahead and take a look at that. With all of that said, for the 2013 October Awareness Month campaign, we are challenging the community to look beyond the physical. don't focus on what may strictly meet the eye, but rather focus on the words and the actions that may be presented right in front of you.
Well done. Well done. Look beyond the physical. Excellent. Let's have Donna come and she's going to do the entertaining speaker, 5 to 7 minutes. Now, as we get to know Donna, we've learned that she likes checklists and likes to have things planned out. We've also learned she's willing to go with the flow and tries to make the best of any situation. Today, Donna's going to share a personal experience and how she handled it. Donna, would you come?
Good afternoon, Toastmasters. What? Oh man, jury duty? Perhaps I should apologize to Rochelle, maybe and David for being in the legal profession. But I'm sure I'm not alone in having this reaction to being summoned for jury duty. The letter I received was a notice that I was to appear for federal jury duty in Billings and that I was going to be an on-call juror for the month of July. When you're an on-call juror for the month, every Friday you have to call in and find out if you're going to be called to appear the following Monday. Well, that doesn't give me much time to plan, and as you know, I do like to plan. But jury selection is on a week-by-week basis, so you can't make any plan. And I'm sure Jim's wife was an on-call juror for June, so I'm sure he could testify to this inconvenience. Every Friday after 5, I made the call and I carefully listened as the recording read through the list of names. Whew. That was my reaction every time as I found out there were no trials scheduled or that my name wasn't called. Then it was the last Friday in July. I wasn't really sure if I was still an on-call juror or not because the last week only had a couple of days of July and the rest was August. I thought, well, I'm not really sure if I'm still on call, but I'll call just to be sure, and if they don't have the recording, well, then I'll talk to someone. So I called in and I listened. What? Oh, they called my name. I don't have time for this. My aunt went into the hospital unexpectedly the day before. My boss and his wife are on the way out of the country on a family vacation. His wife Lois is my assistant who works for me when I'm gone. My other assistant, Jo, she wasn't available to work for me Monday. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I called the federal court clerk and pled my case. I let her know that my name was called, that I work in a two-person office, and I don't have anyone to work for me. She was not very sympathetic, and she told me, you can tell it to the judge on Monday. Oh, thanks. So not only am I in charge of the office, I was also taking care of my boss's house while they were gone, watering the plants and checking their mail. I called my boss while he was on a layover in New York City and explained the situation. I asked if he'd be willing to send his wife home, but neither one of them were willing to do that. Lois told Ellen she could get someone else to take care of the house. Ellen told her, don't worry about it. Donna will handle it. Thanks for the support, Alan. I am very proud that my boss has so much confidence in me that he knows I will take care of it and I will handle whatever comes up. A hard part about jury duty is you don't know how long you're going to be gone. Again, I'm a planner. I need to know this stuff. If you're not selected to be a juror, then great. You'll be free to go that day. But if you are selected, be prepared to stay and do the time because you will be there until the jury is over. The court clerk told me that the trials typically last 2 to 3 days. All right, so let's recap. I have to be in Billings on Monday morning for an unknown amount of time. I have to have someone to work at the office for this unknown amount of time. But I want to be in and asked if their assistant would be able to work for me on Monday. She was really leery about working at an office that she'd never been to, and there wasn't going to be anyone there to help. But she too had been on jury duty, so she was willing to work for me. Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness. So that Sunday, I gave extra water to all the plants, headed out towards Billings. I stopped in Miles City and gave the key to the lady that was going to work for me on Monday, and then I got to spend time with my auntie at the hospital. She's fine, by the way. Monday morning, I arrived at the federal courthouse to join the long line of other prospective jurors. Starting out, there were 48 of us that were called to appear. From there, 24 of us, including me, were randomly selected to be put in the hot seat. And then, one by one, we had to state our name, where we live, and where we work. There was one gentleman that was excused right away because he had a family funeral. Well, that really put my problems into perspective then. The judge asked each of us several questions. Each lawyer then had the opportunity to ask us questions. Then they narrowed it down to 12 jurors. Wouldn't you know, I was selected. The jury selection and trial were a valuable learning experience. Jury duty really is an honor, and we should be proud to have this opportunity. I also learned that even though at times it seems like you have to be in different places at the same time, you can't. And life goes on no matter where you are. You just have to deal with it. So, the lesson learned, try not to worry too much, don't stress, just deal with it and make the best of it.
Melody, who's your evaluator?
Michelle. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't remember. I was like,
Let's do yours then. Michelle. Maybe she needs a minute to get ready. So while we wait for Melody to come, have you noticed the Google ads right down your alley? They have a little kid looking up, saying to Google, "What's glossophobia?" And the fear of speaking comes from the Greek tongue, plus of course phobia is fear. So I am glad to see we're making so much progress with losing that fear of speaking as we begin to have fun together. Well, Melody's going to go ahead and give us her perspective as she gets comfortable with media, with visual aids, and talk about a common problem and how you can fix it in a speech entitled, "Are You Out of Gas?" I think any of us that's over the age of 50 knows all about this except how to solve a problem. So I welcome you to tell us.
thank you. Okay, so that's the question. Are you out of gas? Do you ever feel like your energy's really low, you're kind of depressed, your digestion isn't working very well, and maybe there's some hormonal problems going along with that? Not such a fun place to be in, and it can affect people of any age. The most common source of that I see in my office day in and day out is people with adrenal gland burnout. They're just out of gas. The adrenal glands, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, they're two about walnut-sized glands. One sits on top of each kidney. And they have an inner layer and an outer layer that you can see right here. The outer layer is called the cortex, and the inner layer is called the medulla. Okay, that's the anatomy lesson. You can see there's more layers to it there. The inner layer produces your adrenaline. So when you are under stress, the fight or flight response, that's where that's coming from. The outer layer produces even more hormones, some of which you may have heard of, some may not, things like aldosterone, cortisol, DHEA, and the more familiar hormones, testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. They're all very closely interrelated, and today we're going to focus on the excuse me, the cortisol and the DHEA, and yes, they should come from cholesterol, but it's altogether. So, when your adrenal glands get worn out, they stop being able to produce as much cortisol as they need and DHEA, which also serves as the kind of indicator of how well your adrenal glands are functioning. This is what it's supposed to look like, your daily cortisol rhythm. It should be up in the morning, probably at about a 20, and then going down to a 2 at night. And while it looks like this, it actually feels more like a straight line. 2 at this end and a 20 at this end. So that feels normal, that feels really good. The problem comes when it starts to burn out, and instead of going a steady decline, you start out really low, jump high, go down, go up at nighttime, or any kind of pattern other than this nice steady decline. It feels really bad. So, how do you fix this? What in the world are you going to do? Well, the stages of adrenal fatigue I've got here. So this first part here shows normal, with a cortisol level staying right about 35 to 40-ish somewhere. When you're under stress, that goes up and then comes right back down. You have time to recover. Chronic stress, as I've talked about in a previous speech, over an unknown period of time, depending on your personal constitution, causes problems. So you can go through stage 1 of adrenal fatigue, which is kind of a misnomer because that first stage, you've got a lot of energy, your body's producing lots of cortisol. I think Wall Street brokers and people that work crazy all the time. Usually that actually feels pretty good. Lots of energy, maybe some anxiety and trouble sleeping. Your body can't do that forever. It starts to come down. So then you come down here through stage 2, which the levels are sort of normal, but this is where your DHEA starts to drop and you just can't recover quite as well. Depending on how long that goes on, it can drop down here into a stage 3 where your body's just puttering along, and even that morning cup of coffee turns into 3 cups of coffee and you still can't quite. So, how in the world do you fix this? It's actually pretty simple. There's a test that I do. I run the salivary cortisol and DHEA, so you basically spit in a tube 4 times during one day. So this gives me an idea of where your cortisol levels are at morning, noon, mid-afternoon, and nighttime. Based on that, I can figure out which level of that graph that you're in and treat appropriately with some diet and lifestyle changes, as well as putting in a little bit of those adrenal hormones that help you restore the glands. So let me show you. This is actually my lab that I ran on myself back in December of 2011. So my morning cortisol was at about an 8. If you can see that there, it's a little light. It should be somewhere around a 20. Noon was at a 4. 8 would be better. Afternoon was also at a 4, and you kind of want to be at 6 or 7, much better. Nighttime is right within range at 2. You don't want it to be high at night. And overall, the cortisol sum was at 18, which is half of where it should be. And the DHEA is at 1.5, should be somewhere between 8 and 10 for optimal feeling well. So obviously this isn't so good. So I put myself on my own treatment plan. I dosed myself with the drops 3 times per day. And the reason for the frequent dosing is because we're using low amounts. We're imitating what the body's already doing. And so by doing that, we can re-stimulate the pathway between the brain and the adrenal glands. We don't want to be on the treatment program forever. We're trying to get it fixed and move on. So from there, I put myself on the treatment program and retested again in August. There's a lot of improvement there. Besides feeling better, you can see that the morning cortisol has just about doubled. The noon cortisol has come up to a pretty good range. The mid-afternoon is still a little weak, but the DHEA has come up about 5 points, and that usually takes a while to come up, but fortunately it recovered quite nicely, and I was able to stay on the program for about another month before I discontinued it. And the best part about the whole program is that you can fill up that gas tank by stopping the leaks, the stress that's causing it. So addressing stress is helpful. Using the herbs and the supplements that help to restore the overall pathways works quite nicely. And the best part is, once you fill up that gas tank, it's self-maintaining. I wish my car would do that.
Oh, my, I better grab another introduction here. Hey, this is fun today, isn't it? Our final speaker for this afternoon, you all know that Virginia believes in emphasizing the positive, having a positive attitude. And she's had an experience that could have been very negative. And she's got kind of a special project today, right? Where she's going to speak from 5 to 7 minutes, and then it's up to us to interact with her for about another 3 minutes. So I'm not going to start getting books up and read things and stuff like that until she 8, 9, and 10 is what we're shooting for, correct? Okay, so
that's what that's for.
so the green book means you've hit your 8 minutes, yellow will be 9, and the red thing will be 10 minutes, time to wrap her up. Okay, so won't you welcome Virginia as she gives us her speech, Mindset Matters. Mindset.
Thank you very much. I'm going to set this up here. I think you can all see it. I hope.
Just let it in there. Yeah, no.
You got a piece of tape, somebody that I can
You can't actually tape on that, but you can tape on the metal if someone's got a piece of tape.
Oh.
Yeah, I won't start your timing yet.
Magnet.
A magnet? Hold on.
whichever way.
Something hollow, I got that piece of tape.
Mindset matters. How do we think?
He's not starting your time.
That's right. I'll stop.
I just don't want you
That's okay.
to stop in the middle. I'll interrupt you first.
Something from the federal government might help out. Amazing.
That would be amazing.
Got a station.
Yeah, I got a giant stamp. There you go.
Thank
We'll
you.
start your timing in just a moment after we resume our places. Okay, you may start when you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Mind-body connection. I put these up here so that you could see the 8 different areas as this, because Dr. Franklin, he was in the Nazis' death camp during 44 and 1945, because at that time they would usually let the prisoners go home for Christmas. This year they didn't, and so between 1944 in December to 1945 in January, more prisoners died that year than any other year, because they didn't get the information to go. So practicing and following these 8 suggestions will help us to have a more positive outlook on life and how we can respond no matter what happens. Smile. What is a smile to you? Is it just this? Or is it also with laughter? I wish I had the time to share with you a lady up at the nursing home who, when God used me to help her to laugh, she got rid of tension that had been in her body all her life. I had been told by a relative of hers on the south side of town. But a smile does help an awful lot. You can ask a question later.
Okay.
Okay? But it doesn't cost us anything except to do it, right? It doesn't, a smile isn't much. It doesn't cost us anything, but the benefits are to improve what we think. And it also improves your looks. Compared to this, then if you smile, it's a much happier face to see, isn't it? And express gratitude. Have you ever been criticized and you just felt terrible about it? I have, I know sometimes, but you know, instead of saying, oh, that was terrible for that person to say, because I remember coming out of Reynolds one time, and one of the men that works over at the nursing home, he says to his family, they're up about 4 cars from where I was, oh, here comes trouble. I just walked up to him, and you know what I did? I says, thank you, that's such an interesting name to have. He laughed, they all laughed, because I didn't accept it personally. And it really makes a difference on how our body is when we relate to things that are negative toward us at the time. And we need to focus on the positives. That's the most important thing. Focus on the positives. Because continually just going over the sad events that happen in our lives, and we have worse than, you know, it says in our brain is known as area 25, there's an area there. It's linked to the most kinds of depression. And that means that you can have a high stroke risk, you're higher, you're lower at overcoming cancer, and your artery disease can really increase. But if we do positive solutions, those things all go downhill. In fact, Dr. Franklin said, everything can be taken from a man except one thing, to choose your attitude in any given situation. Nobody can take your attitude and make it theirs, or their attitude and make it yours, in no matter what the situation is. We should forgive. How many of you have ever been hurt by somebody, and you've never really forgiven that person for what they've done? You know, we need to forgive people, be willing to forgive them for whatever they have done to us, no matter how bad it is. If we keep keeping all that hurt inside of us, what does it do to us? It makes us negative, doesn't it? It takes away a positive feeling, a happiness is taken out of us. Don't give up, but get up. And we can have a fixed mindset, or we can have a learning mindset. Fixed mindset means people believe that such traits as intelligence, personality, ability, and competence are inborn, and basically they're unchangeable. That's what a fixed mind does. None of this can be ever changed in my life. Excuse me. But a learning mindset believes that while people may be born with basic aptitudes, that those can be changed to a happier time. And failures don't need to keep occurring in our minds or in our bodies. Choosing to adopt a learning mindset may take time and determination for you, but building is a more resilient, wholesome attitude will keep the oil of enthusiasm lubricating you. Nurture your brain and your body. Dr. McCulloch, director of the Mental Health Foundation in the United Kingdom, said, "We are only just beginning to understand how the brain as an organ is influenced by the nutrients it derives from the foods we eat, and how diets have an impact on your mental health." Eating plenty of whole grains, he says, fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, has a long-term mood and brain boosting effect on the body, and which no snack cake or any other snacks can do. So getting plenty of rest is also very vital, and also getting some exercise outside, getting some fresh air is very vital for us. Do something for somebody. Have you ever done something for somebody? I think it's awesome. I think it's very interesting. I know just going in or out of the post office, open the door. I'm going out and I just hold it open because I know somebody's coming up the steps to go in. You know, that's just opening the door for somebody instead of making them have to open it too. I think it's just something that boosts our body's own ability to fight a disease, because then we're just happy with what we're doing rather than otherwise. And number 8 is trusting. Mark Twain once said, "I am an old man. I have known a great many troubles, but most of them have never happened." You know, that's awesome. Most of those troubles have never happened. So we can have a trust in God and have a positive building in our lives, you know, the thinking we have. So if any of you have any questions you would like to ask me, you have some time to do that. Yes.
Virginia, I've been kind of digesting your step number 1 there, a mindset or about a smile.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my problems in life was kind of inferior feelings and bashfulness, all that kind of stuff. And then when I came to Toastmasters, I overcome, you know, that's when I started connecting my subconscious with my conscious. And by so doing, I reveal honesty to some educated, you know, people here. And, but the point I was trying to make is, I've learned that a smile with teeth showing reveal emotion acted out a long way.
Okay.
This makes for an honest statement. So I'm just saying that, but with a smile. I'm kind of digesting with a smile.
Anybody else have anything to share?
I'm sorry to hear that little Debbie's don't feed the brain.
No, they don't. So that means time's up, the 10 minutes are gone?
The 10 minutes
I'm sorry.
are gone. No, thank you. Okay. Well, given that our speech evaluations are to last 2 to 3 minutes, we better do those and then see what we have left in the way of time for table topics and wrapping up. Won't you let me begin? And if someone else has a wristwatch, just stick their hand up when I hit 2 minutes or thereabouts. I'd appreciate it. So I'm going to evaluate Lacey's speech. And Lacey, I had to give you almost all 5s. I mean, boy, it asks you, what's the value of the speech? What great information. The way you got us to look beyond the physical was awesome. Your preparation, your organization, your body of the speech, the way you defined things for us so we could really understand what you're talking about and what the focus is, really helped us to learn as you got us into this. And then your conclusion was over the top great. You definitely began with the end in mind. And even when the time thing started to go, you still ended strongly, which is a very hard thing to do when you start to get anxious about, oh my goodness, I'm out of time, I better wrap this up quick. But you didn't. You went ahead and you hit the time mark and you did it so well. I had to think and think and think, and the only suggestion I could make was, let's go ahead and focus on beginning with as much enthusiasm as you ended. Get us with you right from the first couple of words was the only thing. But man, knowledge and eye contact, you weren't tied to the paper. You did a great job, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you. So then, let's go ahead. Donna, did you do a speech
I did.
evaluation? And you did one? Okay, okay,
I'm
go
perfect
ahead, Jim.
evaluator. I'll do it from here.
Sounds good.
Fellow Toastmasters and Donna, jury duty. This was an entertaining speech. Now, was it entertaining? You had our attention and you had occasional laughter. It was not side-splitting laughter. Some of us related to it because we had the identical experience the month before, and you did mention that. I remember, and so I perhaps felt some emotional pain. Now, one thing I suggest, in humor, I'm not good at humor, but I'm a student of it. Pauses are all important. The other thing about humor is coming with the unexpected. That seems to be the better technique. When you came to your conclusion, you talked about what I learned from this, and you said something to the effect that something about stress. Oh, don't stress, make the best of it. One thing that, and that's really good advice, that's good conclusions. One thing I noticed, and I think is a correct observation, is that you have the ability to see humor in the ordinary. That is wonderful. And continue with that, because that's our best humor, is when we can see the ordinary things and proceed from there. Let's see. How could you improve? Again, the pauses, utilize the unexpected. And I made a note here, and I don't know how to convey this other than just saying, when you concluded with that statement, what I learned from this, or something to that level, earlier I was watching you, and at times I thought, is she portraying herself as a victim? Or could she change the tone and portray herself as the citizen soldier? So, with that, I'm concluded.
Thank you very much. Okay. And who has Virginia's evaluation? Are you ready? Thank you. Would you like to come up or just
I can just clear. All right. Virginia, I really enjoyed your speech. I think your topic was a really good one. It gave us a good point of view on how to live successfully. And it was a very useful thing to hear all of those different 8 points on the ways to make it through tough situations. I wish I could have time to give that lecture to all of my patients as part of reducing stress. I think that was really good. I think you explained the benefits very clearly. You had lots of good examples in there. I really like that quote by Mark Twain. I wish I had written it down. I'll have to get that from you later. But I think it just goes along really well with the whole flow of things. I think the specific problem that we were trying to solve wasn't exactly mentioned, just kind of the outline kind of gave us the whole clue of successful life, but I wasn't real sure exactly which problem you were trying to address based on the focus of the speech. But I think even not given that, it was pretty easy to follow along with there. You were very well prepared. You had lots of good data, good research backing things up, and all of the quotes were very much relevant. As far as the prepared for questions, I think you definitely were prepared. You did such a good job with the presentation, and there really wasn't much left to ask as far as questions go. And so you might want to, if you do want more questions, maybe leave a few things a little bit more open-ended where people might have more questions. And then the timing was a little bit harder to follow, so we didn't have much time left at the end for questions. So we might want to shorten up things, which kind of relates to well, but I think it was excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so let's think, we got those done. So, let's see. So we've got someone left here. There we go, good.
Oh, and here's your pen. And we'll fill this up over here. Melody, you did a very good job. I thought that it was really nice to have everything, be here early and have it all set up. And your graphics were very, very informative. I liked how you explained just what we needed to know for your speech, because I think sometimes when you get into jargon, people kind of glaze over and they don't get to absorb everything that you're saying because they don't understand what you're saying. So I think it was perfect how you just explained what we needed to know and didn't go farther than that. Just here's what we're focused on and this is what we're going to talk about today. You referred back to another speech and I didn't write it down. So I liked how you incorporated something that you had taught the Toastmasters before into this speech today. Although I don't believe I was a member then, I thought it was nice to refer back to that and then come back to what you were talking about. So your visual aids were clear, they were concise. The only thing I marked down that maybe could have made your speech a little bit more effective is when you're talking, try to talk to people more. Kind of set on one person for just a few seconds longer than you do. You make really good eye contact, but you bounce around a little bit. I think you referred back to your aides in an appropriate way. When you were talking to us, you would point out what you were talking about on your PowerPoint. But that is one of the only suggestions I would make, is just stop on people a little bit more. Scan the room and then talk to each of us individually for a little bit longer. The only other thing I noticed is to use pauses more effectively, just because I felt like at some of the end of your sentences you were running out of breath. And I know that you're pregnant and it's hard to keep your breath going. I've been there. So just, maybe take a few more breaks so that the end of your sentences don't kind of fade out so much. What I liked about your speech, I really liked your gas tank analogy, and at the end where you kind of tied it back and that you can fill up your gas tank, just fix the leaks and you'll be good. I also liked how you used yourself in your PowerPoint, the results that you saw when you took your first test and then your success after you followed your own treatment plan. I thought that was a great way to indicate to us, yeah, there are people who, like you're a real person, so we could relate to that. And I think that all your information was extremely relatable and relevant to everyone in here, because we all know what it's like to run out of gas midday. So good job. Thank you.
In evaluations, it's a little bit harder to go the 2 minutes than the 1.5, and you all did very well indeed. We've got enough time. Jim, I'll give you the times, and then we've got enough time if Mark would like to do a short table topic. Is there anyone else that didn't get a chance to speak? Okay, so for our times, Melody saw what was going on with my timing troubles and wrapped up at 6:30. Well, again, ending well. Begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey said, and you guys did that today. And then Virginia went 10 minutes and 20 and ended up on time. And Lacey also did well with the timing system, ending up exactly on 7:29, also eligible in any sort of a contest. And Donna was amazingly right on 7 minutes. So good job all there in terms of working with time limits. You succeeded. And so I will pull out of my pocket the dreaded Linda Salinas table topic cards. And let's think one that Mark, I'm going to let Mark just kind of choose one here and give us a 1 minute table topic, Mark.
Oh, okay. Well, there's one there. I think you might do the trick.
Okay. All right. So you have 1 to 1.5 minutes.
How about, sir?
Use that shot.
He says, if you could be brilliant in one subject, which would you choose? Well, I gotta admit, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, which is a phrase that is misconstrued. Jack of all trades, I've probably mentioned that in a meeting before, but a jack of all trades is a person that has done really well at just a minority type of task within a certain, within a certain skill or within a certain craft. But I enjoy this question. Yeah, I know the country needs a lot of mathematicians and stuff, and psychologists and everything. Forgive me for taking so blooming long. I don't know. Some of the topics I wanted to excel in very much was psychology. As a young man, I wanted to major in psychology, and of course, like I mentioned, our country and our state, we need a mathematician very badly. And I think it's really a gift if you can understand mathematics. A friend of mine, he took calculus and stuff at the University of Chicago and stuff like that. He says it's a very difficult topic. The psychology has always been with me. To be a big farmer, and actually I've learned a lot of the basics about farming through soil conservation. Soil conservation, they had obligations for a farmer to meet in order to qualify for soil bank. Yeah. Yeah, well anyway, I guess that's good enough for me. Thank you very much.
Good job.
Well, thank you.
I was really wanting to give Jim one of these, but it's about time to wrap up. So we'll get him next time. I mean, we'll enjoy him next time. Okay, so that we'll do it as we wrap up. So next week up at Kearney, and this is, unless there's some emergency, our last time to meet here. So after this, all the meetings will be at Kearney, even if they're on the third Thursdays. And remember also, some of you maybe don't know this yet, but it is our longtime tradition in November and December to have our regular meetings the second and third, so that we're free for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So after this month, we'll be meeting for the next 2 months, just second and thirds, except for the officers. So be well. Enjoy your time this afternoon, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you all for helping. You were wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'd be glad to sign
filled it out
some.
yesterday in my mail and my book out and
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
here.